content is everywhere. You know, you realize school is the only place that my kids cannot take the technology that they carry around in their pockets and in their backpacks and answer the questions that they're being asked. It's the only place. I look at the paperwork and the tests that they bring home from school, and I look at those questions, and most of them, basically, I could take out my phone and answer. And I would submit, if we're asking questions in school that can be answered by Google searches, why wouldn't we let kids take out their technology and answer those things? That is exactly how they're going to answer those questions in their real lives. So schools have not caught up to this idea that knowledge is everywhere. We still think kids have to carry it around in their heads. And I'm not saying we get rid of all content, and I'm not saying we get rid of all curriculum, but in this world of abundance, we have to think about that differently, don't we? We have to make some decisions about the skills and the literacies that kids need to find their own knowledge and find their own information if they have access to it. So content and knowledge is everywhere. Teachers are everywhere. I remember back in 2002, in the dark ages of blogging, I was blogging with my kids in school. We were reading a book called The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. It was a great book. And my kids had their own blog, and they were asking questions, and they were having conversations on the blog, and it was really, I think, it was interesting to watch, and they were going deeply into the conversation. But the best part of that blog was that Sue Monk Kidd was in that blog, blogging with them. The author of that book was participating in their discussions on that space. And she knew a little bit more about that book than I did, if you can imagine it. And she gave my kids more insight than I ever could. And that is the reality of my kids' lives. The teachers, maybe even the best teachers in their lives, don't necessarily be the ones in their face-to-face worlds anymore. And that's not a slight against the people who are in my kids' classrooms, who care about them and who want them to learn. But it is the reality at this moment that if my kids have access, they have access to teachers all over the place. So we have to come to grips with that. What does that mean for what we do in classrooms when there are experts and people who share passions and interests at a greater level than maybe we do, that we can connect our kids to? Data is everywhere. Basically, you know, Google knows more about you than your family does, probably, if you use Google. It's collecting data left and right. Lots of different technologies collect data, and now in education, we are collecting lots and lots of data about our kids, aren't we? We're finding ways to use technology to personalize education, I think, in some profound ways. And that can be good and it can be bad. If the goal of education is to get kids to pass a particular assessment that is fairly narrow in scope, then I'm pretty much convinced that in the near term, there are going to be technologies that will deliver a curriculum to our students in more personalized ways than we are ever able to, that will get them to pass that test better than we can. And if we don't respond to that, and if we don't start having conversations around what changes in schools, then, right, how is that going to play out? How are we going to maintain our values?